The story usually begins after the sighting, not with the thing in the sky, but with the knock that comes later. A witness says something impossible happened, and then a stranger in a dark suit appears. He knows the details. He speaks calmly. He implies that silence would be wise. That is the enduring image of the men in black, not just mystery overhead, but enforcement on the ground. What made that image powerful is that it grew in a country already learning to live with secrecy. In June 1947, pilot Kenneth Arnold reported strange objects near Mount Rainier, helping ignite the modern flying saucer era. That same month, the Maury Island story entered the record in Washington state. Harold Dahl claimed metallic debris fell from a hovering craft, damaging his boat, injuring his son, and killing his dog. The next morning, Dahl said, a man in a black suit sat beside him at breakfast, described the event, and warned him not to talk. Later, investigators judged Maury Island a hoax, but the warning outlived the case. Even a false story can leave behind perfect folklore. That folklore found its most important architect in the 1950s. Albert K. Bender founded the International Flying Saucer Bureau and helped turn UFO belief into organized subculture, newsletters, investigations, people trying to make the unbelievable sound official. Then, in 1953, Bender abruptly shut it down. He hinted that he had learned the truth about flying saucers and had been ordered to stay quiet. In 1956, Gray Barker turned that collapse into myth with They Knew Too Much About Flying Saucers, the book that gave the men in black their permanent role. In Barker's telling, they arrived after sightings, intimidated witnesses, and acted like agents of some hidden authority, part federal shadow, part pulp menace, part tabloid theater. The tension at the center of the legend is that real government interest existed. FBI files show the Bureau receiving and processing UFO reports. The Air Force ran formal investigations that later fed into Project Blue Book. The archives preserve the memoranda, the routing slips, the bureaucratic language of agencies trying to decide whether strange objects were errors, foreign technology, or public hysteria. But those same records do not validate Men in Black visitations as an official program. The paperwork is real. The black-suited silencers remain just outside it. And outside the record, they began to change. In early versions, they could almost pass for counterfeit federal agents. Stern, evasive, vaguely bureaucratic. By 1962, when Bender published Flying Saucers and the Three Men, they had become stranger and less plausibly human. Later writers, especially John Keel during the Point Pleasant and Mothman years, pushed them further still. Witnesses described waxy skin, odd speech, mechanical behavior, an authority that felt less governmental than theatrical. The legend was no longer only about censorship. It had become paranormal menace. That shift explains why the Men in Black endured. They solved a narrative problem. A light in the sky is a mystery. A threatened witness is a conspiracy. Suddenly, every missing document, every weak photograph, every contradiction can be folded into the same answer. The truth was suppressed. In 1969, Project Blue Book ended with the Air Force saying it had found no evidence of extraterrestrial craft and nothing suggesting a national security threat. For skeptics, that closed the file. For believers, it confirmed that the real story had been hidden elsewhere. There is one more complication. Later, skeptical accounts cast Gray Barker not as a careful chronicler, but as a prankster with a loose relationship to truth. If that is right, then one of the most famous enforcers in modern folklore may have been published into existence, not invented from nothing, but assembled from hoaxes, rumors, retellings, and the genuine atmosphere of Cold War secrecy that made invention feel plausible. That is why the Men in Black still linger. Not because they were proved, but because the conditions that made them believable never vanished. Governments do keep secrets. Records do leave gaps. Witnesses still want someone to explain what they saw, and someone to blame for why proof never arrives. So the black suit keeps returning, walking the line between paperwork and paranoia, between history and folklore, always most convincing where certainty runs out. If you liked what you watched, please like and subscribe. We post interesting and crazy stories from throughout history every Wednesday and Saturday. Yesterday's craziness? Because yesterday was crazy too.